Now that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is out in theaters, a lot of fans around the world have been very curious and intrigued about the future of the Star Wars franchise and what could have been based on the reshoots and the rewrites of this movie that were really done by Disney and Lucasfilm to really change the overall tone of Episode 9. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 is that we do know that Kathleen Kennedy was more involved with this movie because of the reshoots and the rewrites. Obviously, with The Last Jedi, it really created quite a divide between fans and created a lot of backlash against the film. Rian Johnson, Disney, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, based on all of the different decisions that they made in that movie and what she approved for Rian Johnson to do in that particular film. Now, with The Rise of Skywalker, obviously, if we look at the box office numbers, it's doing very well so far. It's at 500 million worldwide, over that currently, for the box office results in just 8 to 9 days. And it's very possible that this movie is going to hit $1 billion, worldwide at the box office, and it's going to be a successful Star Wars film, and Disney and Lucasfilm are going to be happy. Now, obviously, after The Last Jedi, a lot of fans have always wanted to see some kind of form of course correct, and that's exactly what they did in The Rise of Skywalker. There was a lot of fixing of what Rian Johnson had done with The Last Jedi and how it really affected the entire sequel trilogy. Now, on to Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, alright? The boss of all things Star Wars, right? So, it's actually explained that currently Disney and Lucasfilm are developing the Star Wars franchise into something new and original for the fans around the world. Now, it said that The Rise of Skywalker was Disney and Lucasfilm's hardest project to work on, and that after coming out of The Last Jedi and the backlash it received, J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy had to make tough decisions to bring the franchise to a specific end. It's noted that the film was harder to work with since Kathleen Kennedy had regrets of giving Rian Johnson the okay to killing off Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi along with Snoke, as well as that the death of Luke made the Episode 9 film a big obstacle to explain certain aspects of the plot. It's said that originally Colin Trevorrow, the original director of Episode 9 who was fired by Kathleen Kennedy, who was the original director of Episode 9, wanted to keep Luke alive. However, Kennedy wanted Luke to go in The Last Jedi and agreed with Rian Johnson's approach to killing him off so early in the sequel trilogy. Now, Colin had other plans for Luke, big plans for Luke in Episode 9 that would have created a far different version for the movie, and for the fans that during production of Episode 9, Kathleen Kennedy had regrets of writing off Luke's character so fast as a living person in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, after realizing that with Snoke now dead, they needed a new villain and a main character that would attract a lot of fans. That would actually make a lot of sense. And so Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams came up with the idea of bringing back Emperor Palpatine to please the fans as a way to satisfy those who were very angry with Luke Skywalker dying in The Last Jedi, that Palpatine was used as a replacement hype to get the fans into the theaters. It's said that Kathleen Kennedy did go into damage control for The Rise of Skywalker and had full regrets of letting go of Luke midway through the trilogy, since they needed a true incentive to bring fans back to enjoy the end of the Skywalker saga with a major legacy character that most love and have enjoyed since the beginning back in 1977. Now, this was all said to be a way of fixing the trilogy, and that by putting in Palpatine, it was a way to replace the hype with Luke now gone. Though Disney and Lucasfilm experimented with Luke's flashback scenes and other Force Ghost sequences that wanted to focus on leaving that alone in case that they received a bigger backlash of having too many flashback scenes of Luke or a Force Ghost Luke too much. Now, which would only remind the fans that he is absolutely dead. Which explains why he is only in the film for roughly 4 minutes as a Force Ghost on Ahch-To with Rey. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the thing about The Rise of Skywalker here is that, yes, I've gone over my spoilers review, I've gone over my official reaction review, I've gone over all of that, and I will say that I really do feel that The Rise of Skywalker is superior to The Last Jedi. I feel that it's slightly better than that of The Force Awakens. It's a decent Star Wars movie with flaws. That's how I really view this movie. It's a very entertaining movie, but it does have a lot of problems with it. There's some scenes that I hate, there's some scenes that I love. So how Kathleen Kennedy, alright, went through the hardest job ever when it comes to Star Wars, right, under Disney. as head of Lucasfilm, this was actually said to be the hardest Star Wars film that they ever worked on, and that there were a lot of regrets of killing off Luke Skywalker so early in the sequel trilogy. Now, the reason as to why Palpatine is back is because of Luke's death. Now, Palpatine coming back was a way to replace the hype of Luke Skywalker. Obviously, there was no Luke really in The Rise of Skywalker. We got like 4.5 minutes of him if you want to count the very ending as well. But the fact that Palpatine was used as replacement hype for the new Star Wars film to attract fans to go ahead into the theaters, I will admit, Palpatine got me into the theater. It was one of the main reasons as to why I wanted to see The Rise of Skywalker, just like how one of the main reasons why I wanted to see The Last Jedi was Luke. Same exact thing goes for The Force Awakens, at least that's how I was. So, with Palpatine, even though he was only in the movie for roughly 12 minutes because of all the reshoots and the rewrites, and they figured less is more, I feel that the fact that, Kathleen Kennedy had regrets, it just tells us that she does not know what she's really doing, and that I think it is time for somebody else to take over as head of Lucasfilm. I really do believe it is time. I think that somebody else needs to take over, whether it be somebody who is a more knowledgeable person in the Star Wars franchise, whether it be Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, or maybe even somebody else out there that can handle both the creative end of things and the business end of things, right? So that's the one aspect, all right? The other thing is this, is that Kathleen Kennedy obviously doesn't really truly understand Star Wars. She understands the general idea of Star Wars, right? She probably figures, everything related to the Jedi, the Sith, blah, blah, blah. But she doesn't really know the inner points of Star Wars, the actual, content that makes Star Wars, if you guys follow. I'm talking about tone, I'm talking about the mythology, I'm talking about the rules, I'm talking about all of that. So I think that what we need right now is that we need somebody else to take over as head of Lucasfilm, and it's rather unfortunate that now they have to rely on Disney Plus to tell more tales of the Skywalker saga. I don't know if you guys knew this, but yes, the Skywalkers are coming back in some way, shape, or form, in the forms of animated shows and live-action material coming to Disney Plus, and possible spin-off films in the future throughout the 2020s. I mean, they got over 10 years worth of Star Wars projects in the early works as we speak right now, and some of those have to do with bringing back the Skywalkers in some way, shape, or form. Whether they be cameos or full-on series or spin-off films, who knows, right? Now, we've actually heard that a couple of weeks ago that Disney and Lucasfilm were developing, or in the talks of developing, a young Luke Skywalker TV series that would explore Luke's life after Return of the Jedi. We've seen a great example, a perfect example, of what we saw with a young Luke in The Rise of Skywalker by use of de-aging technology on Mark Hamill. And let me tell you, does it look amazing. It only shows you that it is, yes, possible to bring back Mark Hamill as Luke once again in his own TV series. I honestly feel that we don't need to even recast. We don't. Sebastian Stan, absolutely, he could be Luke, but what better way of getting Luke back than to have Mark Hamill back as Skywalker by use of de-aging technology. So yeah, I don't know if you guys knew that, but in that flashback in Episode 9 where Luke is training Leia, that's not CGI Luke Skywalker. That's actually de-aged Mark Hamill. That's actually Mark Hamill there, with dots on his face that allow him to become younger through this new generation of technology that we've been seeing in a lot of Marvel films lately, and in a lot of other movies out there. I know Disney started to experiment with CGI techniques of redeveloping faces, kind of like what they did in Tron Legacy with Kevin Flynn, and what they did with Leia in The Rise of Skywalker. Very similar scenarios, but Mark Hamill was real, that was actually him de-aged in that flashback scene when he talked about training his sister Leia, where he's got the helmet on and he pulls the helmet visor back. Very good scene, and it just shows you, the potential they have of bringing back the Skywalkers, in full force for the fans to really enjoy. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
to moon, we hear them once again.